what a collagraph is and what materials you're going to need for part 1, let's talk about how we're going to make our printing plates. And those of you who have done printmaking at school will remember that you're going to use a piece of foam or some kind of backing as your plate. So this is an art term. We're going to create our printing plates, and these will be used later on to create our rubbings that you saw several examples of. So I'm going to start by getting a couple pieces of scratch paper. One I'm going to use for gluing and one I'm going to use for assembling my parts and pieces and just having a place to put the cardboard where I'm going to break down the cardboard. So step 1 is going to be to look through all your snack boxes and your cereal boxes and pick one side that's going to be your printing plate. And I got this off of a cereal box, and I like the size of this. You could orient yours vertically, you could cut it into a square. It's really up to you what size you want. So let's talk about how to break down a box. So this box was flattened. It used to be 3D, now it's flat. So you can tear the top and the bottom, and then I find where the seam is and I tear that too. And this one has a lot of glue on it, so whoop. It's not coming apart easily, so that side, oh, it looks like it got extra glue on it. That side won't be usable, but that's okay, this side will be. And I'm gonna zoom out here a little bit so you can see even better what's going on. All right, take your nice pair of scissors, and it's gonna be really important if you're not used to using longer, sharper scissors that you use proper cutting technique so that you do not hurt yourself. When you are cutting scissors, make sure that the blades are pointing away from you. And when it comes to cutting cumbersome objects, break it down piece by piece as best you can so you're not tempted to do a move like this. Move towards yourself, okay? So I'm just breaking down this cardboard box following the seams, and now I have a more workable piece here. I'm cutting along the seam lines so I get a nice rectangle, and I'm going to save all the trim for my parts and pieces. So this right here would make a great plate. I think I will use that for our example. I'm going to set the plate right here, and I'm going to continue breaking down my cardboard so I have all these usable pieces. Alright, I've got all my cardboard broken down, and now let's talk about what to do with this cardboard. You might have an idea in your head already for what type of scene you want to create. Maybe you want to do a landscape or a cityscape. Maybe you want to do your house or your neighborhood. Maybe you want to make a robot. Or maybe you want to do more of an abstract piece that just has shapes in it. So I'm going to go ahead and do an abstract piece just to show you how to create some shapes. And from there, you're going to let your imagination go wild. All right? So let's talk about shapes. A square is a great shape to start with because it can get turned into a whole bunch of different things. So I'm going to cut a couple of squares here just as examples of ideas of how you can use squares. They can be all different sizes. So squares can get cut in half multiple different ways to create different shapes. And I think I will, yep, you can cut your square diagonally to create triangles. You could then cut these triangles in half from the corner to the center edge. And you could then cut those triangles in half, and so on and so forth, and create a really cool design just using triangles. That could be super fun right there. Another thing you could do with a square or rectangle is simply cut it in half for a smaller square or rectangle. And again, I'm just going to keep cutting in half, giving myself all these cool little options. I already really like this. I might just do this. In half and half and half. I'm just laying them out here. Ooh, I really like that. Another fun thing that you can make out of a square is it's a really great starting spot for cutting a circle. So whatever square piece you have, you're gonna start by holding the square in one hand and turning it in that same hand while chomp, chomp, chompity chomp with your scissors. Notice how my scissors are only opening and closing. I'm not trying to steer my scissors, I'm steering my paper with my non-dominant hand. And look at that, circle. And of course, circles could get cut in half or cut in pieces of pie. So let's go ahead and do that again. So practice from a square, turn your paper in your non-dominant hand, chomp, chomp, chompity chomp, in your dominant hand with those scissors. Here's my beautiful circle, and I'm going to cut that in half and see how I like that. Very cool. Cut that in half, see how I like that. Now I've got a quarter. Now I've got eighths, and so on and so forth. This could be fun, however you want to do your circle shapes. So there are 3 beautiful shapes I created out of a square, and you could do different sizes. So let's see what happens if I cut a bigger one in half and add that to the mix here, however you wish. Getting fun. So just go ahead, grab your scissors and continue to break down your pieces so that you have something to work with. And I bet something will pop off of this paper and say, I want to become a field of flowers, or I want to become a spaceship. Or you could just use shapes. So go ahead and continue breaking down your cardboard. I will too, and we'll meet back together in a few minutes on what to do with all these wonderful pieces. I think I have enough to work with here, so I'm going to go ahead and clean up my workspace. I'm going to throw away any scraps I think I won't be able to use, but save any scraps that are bigger, because as you start compiling your piece, you might be very glad that you saved some of these. Something to think about as we move forward is the more detail you add, the more interesting your rubbing is going to become. So you're probably going to want to add things along the way. And I might swap to a bigger piece of cardboard now that I see all these pieces. We'll see how it goes. Okay. Decide on your background. Find your glue. And so now, right about now, I'm very happy that I had this piece of paper under me, because I can shift all my pieces over here. Okay, so now comes a really fun part, and this, you could do this 2 ways. You could trace, and here I am saying now you're gonna need a pencil. You could trace your background plate and assemble your parts and pieces here in the staging zone, or you could assemble them directly onto your plate. Just be aware you're gonna have to pick up each piece, put glue on it, and put it down. And it's not gonna be easy for you to see the demo, so I'm gonna use this as my staging area. Okay, so I'm gonna set my plate aside, and I'm gonna arrange these in an artistic way, whatever speaks to me. And we'll see you in a couple minutes after you've arranged yours, and we'll talk about gluing. Now it's time to glue. So if you only have a regular glue stick, you're going to apply a little more glue to the back of each piece, and you're going to apply glue to the shiny side. So this would be the shiny side. Apply a lot of glue to the shiny side, and then when you're ready to stick it down, you're going to really massage. So let me walk you through the first couple pieces here, and then I'll put on some music and you can watch while you work. So glue on the shiny side, lay it down, and then you're gonna have to hold it. This is called allowing the paper to grab and the glue to grab the paper. So you always want to apply glue to the piece, not your background. Apply glue to the piece, around the perimeter, press it and hold for that grab time. And again, more detail is more butter. So if you're working away and you feel like, this corner is empty, just grab some of your pieces that you've saved and cut up in a couple more shapes. So I'm going to keep working on this, and you keep working on yours, and I'll see you on the flip side. So normally at this point for a collagraph, we would seal this with some kind of varnish, and we would actually use this as our printing plate. But because you're doing this at home and we're not using specialized materials, we're just using cereal boxes, we're going to use this more as a rubbing. So it is really important that all of your pieces stick. So this might be a good time to put a piece of wax paper over your printing block and put a heavy book on top of it and let it dry for a while. As soon as it's dry, come back for step 2.